You talk about all the changes that have happened, like the portal, like NIL, everything you've seen change in your time, even just as a head coach. And now we're talking about revenue sharing, and there's this revenue gap with the SEC, Big Ten, and the Big 12. Like, as a coach, how much do you think about that? How much do you have to focus on thinking about the bigger picture of where the Big 12's at relative to everybody else right now?
Well, the great thing, it's funny. You sound like the SEC and the Big Ten recruiting against me, and that's what they use, but they're not using facts.
Yeah.
So the fact of the revenue sharing is we're all going to share the same thing. Now you've got a choice on how much of that same thing you're going to share. We're going to share at the max level. Yeah. So our AD, we're going to be very aggressive, and we're going to share at the max level. Yeah. Now there is a difference in the revenue that's being, as far as the TV contract and everything like that. But when it comes to revenue sharing, that doesn't come in. So if it's $20 million for the Big 12, it's $20 million for the SEC, it's $20 million for the Big 10. And so I always remind recruits, if a coach is going to tell you that, he's not telling you the truth. So you really want to go play for that guy. So I've actually had to do some of that. I'm glad that you said that, because I've actually had to do some of that this year in recruiting, because people were saying, well, you're not going to be able to share as much revenue. It's all equal whenever it comes to the Power Four. Now it's a choice. We choose to share at the highest level.
Man, I think you got me ready to play for you. I can see why you're a good recruiter. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
But I mean, how much tougher has it gotten to recruit in this day and age because of things like that?
Man, you think about this. I got my job at Baylor December 12th, 2016. Started recruiting, trying to put a class together. We had one commit. And the world that I recruited and the world that I'm recruiting right now has totally changed, and it will change again in 2025. And so, I mean, like, so many things have happened so fast, and you just got to adapt to it. You got to, do the best you can. The great thing is we have a administration, a president, and an AD that we're all aligned. $250 million facility build, south end zone. We're all in on revenue sharing. So I think we're putting ourselves in a really good position. Now I got to go back it up. I got to go back it up. We got to win on Saturdays.
Who's the best recruiter that you learned from as a young coach?
Mac Brown. Mac Brown, by far. I always tell everybody, Mac would have won and he's still in his heyday. So I apologize, Mac Brown, for even coming to say that, because I love Coach Brown. But I always said if he would have run for president at that time, he'd have won by a landslide. I've never been around anybody, and I just took notes and took notes. That was the great thing about being a high school coach for 23 years.
Yeah.
I saw all the good, the bad, the ugly. And, I try to use that in recruiting high school kids now, of like, hey, question this, ask this question whenever you're on other visits, and really get, Mac was so genuine, and, he gave you the truth.
Saw you come up and joke around with Chris Kleiman a little bit earlier. Who is your best coaching friend in the Big 12? Like, who are you tightest with?
I would probably say Kleiman. I'm really anxious. I really like Willie Fritz, but I'm anxious now that he's here. And then one that people are going to be like, now what is Dion? I mean, we were texting earlier today, and it was some of the stuff that I said that I just, because I think a lot of Dion. I got to coach his oldest son in high school, and so I know him really well. But Kleiman's probably the guy that, the guys I talk to the most are Jeff Traylor and Matt Rule. But if I'm going to call somebody in the Big 12 about, hey, what's up, probably be Kleiman.
I like that. All right, I'll leave you with this, because I feel like you're the best guy to ask this to in the league, probably. Can the Big 12 in this day and age win a national championship?
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think that number one, I think the Big 12, we have to do a good job of winning non-conference games. We've got to do a good job of playing really good football to overcome so much bias. I heard Bob Stoops say this many years ago. If you put Georgia and Alabama in any conference, then that's the best conference. Yeah. In fact, guess what? The Pac-12 is still alive if Georgia and Alabama are in the Pac-12. And so you have this, those two teams that are so good or have been so good. Ohio State's done a great job. Michigan won it last year. But you're talking about 4 or 5 teams. We've had the opportunity to play some teams in bowl games, and I haven't been like, oh, my gosh, I couldn't line up every single week and play against these guys. And so I think it's really important that we play well in non-conference games, and then we've got to put a good product on the field every single week. We'll have an opportunity.
What's the vibe around your team right now? Like, how are you feeling about the team heading into the season?
I feel good. And one of the reasons I do is because of the 5 captains I brought today. I'm going on January, started 30 years, and I've never been around a group of guys that are so bought in and wanting to hold each other accountable, but holding me accountable, holding the rest of the team accountable. And that they really came to me and sat down, and out of frustration of last year with all of us, of just going 7-6, the expectations were so high and we didn't meet them. And so how can we meet them? It starts with holding each other accountable.
Well, so much of it for you guys, I feel like there can't be anybody that's had worse quarterback injury luck in the country than you guys, right? Like, how do you kind of funnel that through? What do we need to do to get better versus some of this is just out of our control?
Yeah, that's the tough thing. We have this deal. We always talk about, we don't make excuses and we don't let other people make them for us. And I said that to somebody, and somebody goes, but there are reasons. And some of the reasons that we've had is there's no way you could have convinced me that I would have had to play 3 quarterbacks year 1 and had to play 3 quarterbacks year 2. And it starts with we got to protect Baron Morton, but we've got to do it in so many ways. It's just not on the offensive line. It's on everybody. It's on the play call. And it's just as much on Baron from the standpoint of understanding not every single play is a touchdown. He cannot extend every play with his feet. He's going to have to throw some balls away, and he's going to have to get down versus he's going to have to slide versus going head first and trying to get extra yards.
I feel like you guys have utilized the transfer portal about as well as anybody in this conference. How do you feel about integrating as many guys as you are in important spots this year?
Yeah, our philosophy is we want it to be a stopgap to where, kind of give you an example, at our strong safety position, we knew we were going to lose a guy, and so we went and got A.J. McCarty, and A.J. wasn't able to play last year, but he's ready to go now. Well, I had a really young guy that would have had to play more snaps than what he was ready for. This way, I can play both of them. So when you look at our portal guys, the guys that we get out of the portal, they're guys that have played a lot of football. We have 2 starters coming back on the offensive line. One started 42 games and one started 2 games. But we have 142 college starts in that room.
Yeah.
Well, it's because going in the portal to get older guys to help our young offensive linemen grow up. They'll be ready to play a lot more mid-year, those young guys, but they're not ready right now. And so that's how we look at the portal. It's a stopgap. That's not where we want to live. We want to recruit in the high school and recruit high school athletes.
Hey, speaking of being ready, what about Micah Hudson, your 5-star freshman wide receiver that's coming in? How much will you be relying on him this year?
He'll be ready to go, man. He's, he didn't go through spring football. He was running yesterday, doing everything in the weight room and running and everything. So I feel really good that he'll be ready to go. It's going to be huge. I mean, somebody asked me, when's he play? He plays day 1, August 31st, when we line up against Abilene Christian, he's going to be on the field. The great thing is, going back to the portal, we were able to add Josh Kelly, who had 923 yards last year, and Caleb Douglas. And so now Micah is learning from vets on how to prepare himself for a game, and it takes a lot of pressure off of a freshman. So he's going to be able to go out and just play versus having to think he's got to be the guy, because that's the guy's going to be Josh Kelly. It's going to be Jalen Conyer. It's going to be Mason Tharp, and then, of course, Taj Brooks.